Hi, everyone. We're live. It's Elizabeth Mathern from the South Georgia office of Kuck, Baxter Immigration with your 2 o'clock Facebook Live. We plan to talk about all the things that are new today in immigration law. I want to give you some of my thoughts on what's going on with the immigration reform bill. And looks like I don't have a very great signal today. Sorry about that. Down here in rural Georgia, we're really rooting for broadband. Hopefully, broadband will pass through this reconciliation package. And gosh, even if it does, it'll take a little while to implement. But the rural parts of the state really, really need a lot better internet infrastructure. That's for sure. So we'll do our very, very best today, coming to you live from South Georgia. So I also want to give you some updates on the immigration detention world, what's going on there, and also answering your questions live. So any questions you have, feel free to post them. Anything about removal defense, green cards, family-based petitions, naturalization, waivers, things like that. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Just so you know, I won't be doing litigation updates. Mr. Kuck did a litigation, I think it's on the Impact Litigation YouTube channel, litigation update on Tuesday. And he also did a Facebook Live yesterday. So, okay, let's go ahead. And I will also put up here for you my name, South Georgia office, how to get in touch with me to schedule a consultation. All right, I want to give you some of the best news that I've been able to give in a really, really long time. That is that the Irwin County Detention Center is no longer detaining any immigrant detainees, as far as we can tell. And that's from reporting as of last week. So, for those of you who don't know much about my journey, I was an immigration attorney for many years. I own my own firm. Atlanta Immigration Court is notoriously difficult. It has a 98% denial rate for asylum cases. All the children, unaccompanied children, and women fleeing domestic violence kind of hit a fever pitch in about 2014. And the court under the Obama administration was putting those cases through on what was called a rocket docket. So cases were just being pushed through the system at lightning speed, not giving people an opportunity to really gather their defense or even sometimes to even retain a lawyer. So it has been a really hard road. I decided I don't know that I want to be a part of a system that doesn't give people even close to a fair shot. But then when President Trump was elected and we saw that the immigration enforcement was going to increase, be even more strict, I decided to not leave immigration law. And I joined a project organized by the Southern Poverty Law Center to focus on getting people out of immigration detention in some of the most hostile immigration jurisdictions in rural America, so in the Southeast. So that program is called Southeast or Southern Immigrant Freedom Initiative, SCI or CFI, and that's with Southern Poverty Law Center. That program's still going. So I moved to South Georgia in 2017 to work at the Irwin County Detention Center, exclusively focusing on getting people out of Irwin. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be at Irwin is I knew from my years of practice, since I had first been there in 2010 to represent a client, that the Irwin County Detention Center, in my opinion, was the worst detention center I'd ever been to. And remember, I was a public defender, a criminal defense attorney before I was in immigration law. So that detention center is really, really old. It is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it is somewhere, but no real resources, extremely, extremely remote. And it detained both men and women immigration detainees. So I felt a real sense of calling to come down and fight for people. So the fact that 4 years later, after concentrated effort by advocates, nonprofits, real on the ground, directly impacted people jumping into the advocacy and activism space, affected real change of closing down that detention center, bringing to light some of the worst atrocities in immigration detention that people have heard about, which was the forced sterilization in some cases, but also forced surgeries and on women by a local doctor. That is still under, in my understanding, under investigation. There's lawsuits pending, etc. So the fact that that detention center has now lost its immigration contract and is no longer detaining immigration detainees, I think is a huge victory. We can't necessarily change the immigration detention center overnight, but by chipping away at it, brick by brick, block by block, eventually, like even water dropping on granite cuts away its stone, right? So it's a huge victory. So that is one of the reasons why I ended up down in South Georgia. If you ever wonder why do we have a South Georgia office? Well, did you know that there are 3 immigration detention centers in South? Well, oh my gosh, I caught myself. There's only 2 now, Folkston and Stewart. Okay, we've got to count Baker County now in North Florida, which is also fairly close to our South Georgia office, as one of the new places that people are going. Also, McRae, just outside of Atlanta, is where we're seeing a lot of people who would have otherwise gone to Irwin are now being sent to McRae. So unfortunately, when Irwin closed, that didn't mean necessarily that the people that were detained there just got released. Many of them were transferred. Now, what's happening with releases? We are still seeing people released. We are still seeing people getting those CFIs. They're taking several weeks, 5-6 weeks, I'm seeing, for people to get CFIs and get processed for release if they have no criminal history, things like that. I have seen several people released that took many months to fight for their release, even with criminal histories, but been here a really long time, medical conditions, and criminal history is somewhat old. So we're still seeing those releases, regardless of where they are in the immigration court system. So they may even have a removal order. Deportations are still happening, as far as we can tell. Haiti is in a bad place after everything that's happened recently there. I have heard of Haitians being released, but I think ICE is still trying to act like they're going to deport people to Haiti, but I haven't seen it actually happen. So anyway, we're always watching those, as an immigration attorney, we probably know the local politics and weather and all of that of so many countries, you'd be surprised. So we try to keep up with all of that. What's going on in the world is really important to us and to you. So, all right. I wanted to give you a little bit about, I guess, the current process that the immigration reform package is in. It's now in the Ways and Means Committee. They are going to make edits and cuts to the different proposals. They're going to argue about how much money they want to spend, how the money is going to be paid back, things like that. And then tomorrow is Friday. they're supposed to make arguments to the parliamentarian on, I guess, why the immigration stuff is budget related. So if you don't know, a lot of the bills that we're hoping will pass related to immigration law are being put through a reconciliation process. That's part of the way Congress passes like a budget. And so they have a certain amount of money, and it's how they're going to spend it. And in order for these things to be part of this budget, they can't just be in order to legislate whatever. It has to be related to spending and money. So we're going to hear arguments tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be on C-SPAN or whatever, about how these immigration packages are related to the budget and spending. I don't have a lot of concern that we're going to make it through that process. There's some good precedent that immigration bills, especially, immigration forms and any applications always come with filing fees. So it's going to make the government money. And those USCIS is a fee-funded agency. So the fees are set to pay for the processing of the application. So it's supposed to sort of take care of itself without additional financing from the government from other means. So I think that there's good precedent. It's been approved before by parliamentarians, this type of thing. So I think that part will be fine. The thing, obviously, the Democrats have trouble getting things done, as just any party at this point. Just our Congress and our government in general seems to have trouble getting things done. I guess I should say federal government these days. I think where there may be a sticking point is how much money will actually be allocated. And so you're going to have, I think, some Democrats who are posturing as fiscal conservatives, trying to represent that sort of wing, because their constituencies are more moderate and on the fence, and that's sort of the way they need to talk to their constituents. So you're going to see, I think, people pushing back on the numbers, but ultimately the immigration part of this bill, of this package, has a lot of support, especially public support. So what it's like right now, I think last I saw was 74% of the public support these paths to citizenship. And so what we keep hearing is the same thing. TPS, Dreamers, the important personnel during the pandemic, and farm workers are supposed to be included in this package. Who knows what's going to be left on the cutting room floor as they sort of take a pen and draw edits. But I think there's such public support and potential benefit to the country for all four of those segments. The Dreamer package is supposed to be an expansion. TPS allegedly would not include Venezuelans, but if something is passed related to TPS, creating a path to citizenship for people on TPS, it would be that much easier to add an additional country to that sort of path. And then who knows what the essential workers is going to include. But I would love to see it include restaurant, service industries, non-degreed hospital workers, including non-degreed hospital workers. We have a lot of people who are here on beneficiary work permits, like their parent is here on some sort of a visa, and because they're their child, they're here. But that particular visa that they have doesn't allow them a path to citizenship. And a lot of those can be our nurses or our medical students, things like that. So, or teachers. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we included like teachers, educators? Um, Gosh, the imagination can really go wild on some of these essential worker categories because there were so many unsung heroes that literally kept our lives running during the pandemic. Just unsung and unseen heroes. And I know that some countries, I think France and Canada, have offered paths to citizenship for these people in these kind of categories. And I would really, really like to see the United States do something similar because we've been through a lot. And I think it would really galvanize, our fortitude for moving into the future if we recognize the contributions and the sacrifices of the people who really kept this country from falling apart. I mean, the people who work in the food service industry, food service in the hospitals, cleaning the rooms of the hospitals, sanitation in the hospitals. They risk their lives every day just to show up to work. So, and still are. So, yeah, I would really love to see something like that happen. And if it does, that's going to help a lot of people and bring us some positive out of a really, really tough year. All right, folks. As far as other news in immigration law, we did see that the U.S. Department of State issued some information regarding prioritization of visa processing. So, as you may have heard, I don't know if you've heard this number because I don't feel like it's floating around very much, but did you know that in 2020, like January of 2020, the immigrant visas that were being wait to process outside of the country, so consular processing in January of 2020 was I think 75,000, and it's now as of August 2021, like almost 600,000 backlog. At 600,000 people with potentially approved or ready to interview or reuniting with potentially like a relative of a U.S. citizen, person with, as we know, diversity visa, fiance visas, work visas, 600,000 people backlog right now. So the Department of State issued a prioritization that they would attempt to address the backlog in an orderly fashion. They would give priority to certain cases, and that includes prioritizing at the top, like family-based cases, things like that. They also have some discretion in expediting. What we see in everyday processing of cases, they're taking a long time. We know that. But then randomly, sometimes things will go through faster. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not that it was a better case or we did anything differently or better. Sometimes it's just random. So I think it's good that the government's trying to create a way to sort of eat the elephant, right? Like this is a big, big problem, and you can eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? You can't do it all at once. But at the same time, they're going to need to do a lot more to address the real issue. So what we don't want to see is them just saying, oh, well, we're trying, because we've been hearing that for 2 years from different administrations. But still, with everything that's been going on, we've got a lot of people that are waiting, like holding their lives in order to be processed. And it's really, really hard to know when things are going to be processed, to make plans and things like that. So hopefully the prioritization will see giving some traction and some movement to cases. If things can get into a workflow that's a little bit faster, then they might be able to move out some backlogs in some categories, which should enable them to move to other categories. So we'll see. We did also hear that some consular processing officers at some of posts around the world are being diverted to assist in processing the special immigrant petitions, advanced parole petitions, things like that for the Afghan refugees. So that's another shift in resources that may continue to have that backlog grow. As you know, we're not stopping filing cases. We're going to keep filing everything. And, the government may eventually have to allocate more resources to processing these cases than just a prioritization. I mean, at the end, at some point, like just creating other lines, line after line after line, and shifting files around doesn't really solve the problem. So, okay, let's see. Carla has a question. Do you know if waiver denial cases will have a chance in the near future? Carla, I'm not sure if I understand your full question. So, do you know if waiver denial cases will have a chance to something in the near future? Maybe get adjudicated or maybe be reevaluated? I'm not sure. I'm missing a word there. I think I'm missing that word after two. So, as far as waiver denials, gosh, I'm interested to know more about what's going on. I don't want you to put details about your specific question on here, but if someone got a waiver denied during the Trump administration, and maybe there's a different prioritization or something, some sort of factors, I mean, you could potentially reapply for a waiver. I would need to know a little bit more. And yeah, a shift in administration does change how the same law is affected by policy in effect. So, all right, it might be worth revisiting or talking about with somebody. So feel free to give us a call and we could talk about that in more detail. All right, folks, well, 601 was denied and I haven't, okay. All right, so the 601A was denied. Haven't had a hope in getting him legal status. Just for people who don't know, a 601A is something that can be used as a stateside waiver to waive unlawful presence, and then a person can, if approved, tentatively approved, person goes out to an interview and can process back as a green card holder. If a 601A is denied, it is really disheartening because you don't have that pre-approval in hand. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all hope is lost, Carla. Number one, we could see something that might help your husband depending on what kind of work he does or how old he was when he entered in this immigration reform bill. But also, don't forget to look at other avenues. If you had, I'm sorry, we got a bunch of noise today. If you haven't already evaluated the ability to adjust through a U visa or other things like that, a T visa. If a 601A was an opportunity for you to use, then perhaps other avenues weren't evaluated. Now that you have the 601A denial, you might want to double check that other routes aren't available, other routes that might take longer but are possible. Don't give up hope. There's always hope. And then another thing is potentially, in theory, you could refile a 601A. What is the process? Sorry, guys. Let's see. So, Carla, I hope that helps. Ang, how is DV 2021 going? That's a great question. I'm not doing diversity lotto litigation updates. I am holding my breath for you guys. I think that something's got to give. So just keep checking back. Follow our Facebook page for those impact litigation YouTube videos. You can also go on YouTube and find that channel and follow it. You can subscribe so you're alerted to when those happen. Usually it's Monday night. All right. Brenda wants to know, what is the I-130 process for a person applying for a second time? Okay, Brenda, I need more information. Number one, in general, an I-130 is a petition for an alien relative. I hate to use that word alien. A petition for a relative. It only certifies the relationship, okay? So it gives you a step one to some second step, like an adjustment petition. Some people are eligible to just file an I-130 and a 485, maybe because they're married to a U.S. citizen and they entered with a visa. Some people need additional steps to utilize an I-130. So if you're talking about somebody was once a green card holder, left, abandoned their green card, now you want to process them back on a new I-130, that I would say, and if it's an immediate relative petition, I would say I would think probably minimum, the way things are so backlogged, 18 months. But it could take longer. I mean, it could take 2.5 years at this point. Sometimes straightforward I-130s, mother child petitioning for a mom flies through. But anyway, Brenda, I think we need a little bit more information about what all's going on in this situation to give you a little bit. Okay, you're very, very welcome. I hope that was helpful. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to probably wrap up since we've got all this crazy background noise today with a few minutes to spare. But remember, tomorrow is when the debates are supposed to happen regarding the immigration legislation to the parliamentarian. Keep an eye on that. I hope to be able to bring you an update next week. I think that there was supposed to be a vote. I think they were originally talking about doing a vote on 9/15 for this. So let's see what happens. And hopefully next week we'll be able to talk about it. In the meantime, I hope you all, Mohammed, I see you just posted a question. DV 2020, you need to be watching the litigation updates, okay? Go onto our Facebook page, scroll down to the update Mr. Kuck did yesterday, or find the impact litigation update that was done on Tuesday, okay? All right. I'm pretty sure that was all. This has been the craziest week, with Monday being a holiday, but not really a holiday. And it's just been, for some of us, and it's just been crazy. So I hope I got my days right in telling you where to look. But just look on our Facebook page and see what you can find. You'll get your DV 2020 updates there. Also, folks, if you don't already follow us on Twitter, you can follow our firm Facebook page at Kuck Baxter on the Twitter machine. You also can go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, which is a very comprehensive email with all that's going on once a month. And if you are interested in all things immigration, or you're just interested in your case specifically, you might find something there that's helpful. So make sure you go to our website, look for that newsletter subscription thing to click it and join us. All right. So you can be on that list for the newsletter. And don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms. I think we're pretty much on everything. I don't know. I think probably our most active is Facebook and Twitter, but there's also YouTube, TikTok. We're everywhere. So look for us, and we look forward to seeing you there. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. My name is Elizabeth Mathern. I'm joining you from South Georgia. So if you're anywhere in South Georgia or North Florida, don't hesitate to come see us. Our office is in Adel, Georgia, which is halfway between Tifton and Valdosta, right off I-75. We are there Monday through Friday, and I'll put up the phone number again just in case anybody's interested. The phone number in the South Georgia office of Kuck Baxter is 229-472-5775. My name is Elizabeth Mathern. I enjoyed being with y'all today, And thank you for the questions. Thank you for everyone who posted questions and comments. I appreciate it so much. I'll see you again, God willing, and the creek don't rise, next Thursday, which will be, I think, the 16th. So hopefully that'll be after some sort of vote, and we'll get to talk about the immigration reform budget reconciliation package. Okay. Well, take care. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye.